Hey folks, it's Nate. Thanks for joining me at the art table again today. I wanted to do something a little bit different from what I've been doing for the last month or so. I wanted to go through a writing exercise that I do from time to time. Now, I don't really have a name for this exercise. It's just something that I caught myself doing one day and decided to make a habit out of. So we're going to call it versus mode for the purposes of this video and future discussions. So there you go, you were there when a new piece of lore was established for the show. Now, the idea of versus mode is to work out all the potential stories you could get out of a very well-known situation. I don't remember exactly when I started doing this, but it usually came about because I was reading the news. Actually, the news is ripe with opportunities to go through the versus mode exercise and work out what kinds of stories you could tell based on an article of news. And as you can probably guess by the title of this video, the news story that we are looking at today is the Elon Musk acquisition of Twitter, which is chock full of potential stories to tell. Now, I know people have a lot of opinions about the takeover of Twitter and all the shenanigans that have been going on there for the past, 4-6 months? I'm not going to dig into that too deeply. I don't really have a whole lot of opinion over it, other than that I think just about everyone involved has overblown the situation at least a little bit. However, the point of versus mode is to get into the minds of every person in the situation and ask yourself, how would you make their part in the situation the vantage point for a story? And if you just put a little bit of work into it, you will find that with a little imagination, you can find an interesting story in most people's situations. Versus mode is just an exercise to help you develop that flexibility. So, let's take a look at the Twitter acquisition and ask ourselves, what kinds of conflicts in this story would make for good stories of our own? The obvious place to begin is with Elon Musk, which is why I'm going to skip over that and save him for the end. Let's actually begin by considering the board of Twitter. Originally, the board of Twitter did not want to sell the company to Elon Musk. There could be any number of reasons for that. They may not like what they think he's going to do with the company. They may not enjoy the idea of being put off the board of such an important and socially prestigious company. They may have a personal grudge against Elon Musk. Twitter may have a very strong emotional meaning to them, and thus they do not like the idea of not being a part of its day-to-day operations anymore. Well, I suppose the members of the board are not day-to-day members of Twitter's activities, but they do have an important governing role in it, one someone very attached to the company would be loath to give up. Finally, a member of the board may simply be an immovable object to Elon Musk's unstoppable force. Furthermore, since Twitter's board is a group of people rather than an individual, you can actually give each of these motivations to a separate board member and have all of them come together to resist Elon Musk's takeover for their own personal reasons. Of course, the news does not really seem to support most of these motivations for being the reasons the Twitter board resisted the Musk takeover. However, the joy of fiction is that you don't have to perfectly copy over the situation that inspired you. You could simply take a tech company and give it a board with different motivations to resist a hostile takeover and tell your story that way. Of course, that requires a very strong understanding of business law and a whole bunch of other things, which you may not really be well suited to take part in. Nevertheless, there is definitely a story potential there, and it could be a very interesting story, full of shaky alliances, backstabbing, personal grudges, and a whole host of other things, because, as we all know, the people who run multi-million-dollar companies tend to be at each other's throat. Sure, a hostile takeover by an outsider gives them reason to join together, but they are still going to have outsized personalities and conflicting goals that make for excellent tension in storytelling. A mix of clever business maneuvering and interpersonal drama makes for a very potent story if you know what you're doing. By the same token, The legal challenges that arose when Elon Musk tried to back out of the Twitter acquisition are another fertile ground for storytelling, this time for courtroom drama. Many of the same character motivations and conflicts that exist in the business side of things will also exist on the legal side of things. You would just need a different set of expertises to really tell that story. You would need someone who really knew business law both in and out of the courtroom to really tell that story if you wanted to make that the focus of a story about the Elon Musk takeover. However, there is a completely different aspect of this story that you could look at: the Ligma and Johnson route. If you haven't heard of this story, there were a couple of trolls who went outside the sidewalks around Twitter headquarters and approached reporters telling them they were engineers from Twitter who got fired. They were not actually software engineers, they were pranksters. And that is another rich area of storytelling that you can get out of the Twitter takeover. Ligma and Johnson were looking to just make fun of people who are taking the Twitter takeover seriously. And maybe it is okay to take the takeover seriously. Like I said before, I don't. But many people who are taking it seriously because of their high opinion of themselves and the viewpoints that they can put out through Twitter. It's not actually about Twitter or the seriousness of the situation, it's about making themselves look more important. Ligma and Johnson proved that they are so self-important, they are missing very important details of what is going on around them. Pranksters and tricksters who take the hot air out of self-satisfied, pompous idiots are a great protagonist for a story. And you can definitely tell the story of the Twitter takeover from that point of view. We already see that they have not only trolled reporters, they've also managed to get invited into Twitter headquarters, which is an interesting and poetic finish to their story, but we can definitely do it one better. We could have them take the piss out of everyone. Show them trolling the media, show them trolling the software engineers themselves by posing as members of the media. Show them trolling Elon Musk for a grand finale of clever wordplay and confidence games. You can take this kind of idea just about anywhere you want it to go because you're the storyteller. Again, this is something you would do as part of a satire, probably not dealing with Twitter itself, but a fictional company. Something like Silicon Valley, only specifically crafted around the hostile takeover rather than day-to-day operations. Finally, you can tell the story from the point of view of software engineers themselves. Maybe they are originally sympathetic to Elon coming in and taking over because they know that the company is not being well run. But people that they do know and respect still lose their jobs because they are in positions that are not allowing them to currently use their abilities to their fullest extent. Then the conflict becomes, how do we help this person keep their job, even though, yes, major shakeups need to happen at Twitter? Or you can go with what we are seeing right now. There are a bunch of people who are dissatisfied with the direction that Elon Musk wants to take the company, and they try and find different ways to resist his efforts to reshape the company through attempts to collaborate, through creative resistance, and ultimately through direct opposition to the hostile takeover party. One engineer against a tech giant is probably not going to go very far, and this would be at least partially a tragic story as we watch everything the engineers try and do buckle and fail, and ultimately they have to leave the company. This is a great opportunity to have a character study, and again, show a wide range of people with a wide range of motives for opposing the hostile takeover, attempting a wide range of things of varying levels of morality, intelligence, and skill, and really get a sense of what these situations can be like to the people who are most affected by them. And again, you could do this as a fictional situation where you have a fictional tech company being taken over by a random outsider. But I think this is actually a good place to use the existing situation as a foundation rather than just as a template. There are many works of historical fiction that take a situation like this and add a couple of new people to it to observe the events, to comment on them, and to give certain perspective to it. Just about any war movie does this, either by creating a new person or by taking the viewpoints of several existing people and combining them into a single character. While the Twitter takeover is not as high stakes or high stress as a pitched battlefield, I think you can apply the same narrative techniques to make the software engineer side of the Twitter takeover a very compelling and interesting story. Of course, to tell this story, you would have to do a lot of research. You would want to do a lot of interviews with people who were there. You would have to pay some respect to the historicity of the moment and be sure that the story you are telling is grounded in that, even if you are adding a fictional character to give your own view on what is actually happening. That is doubly true in the internet era where so much of this is happening right before our eyes. Getting that deep understanding of the situation is going to be necessary to give the story verisimilitude to the audience, and also hopefully shed a little light on some of the mysterious things that are happening, at least from the perspective of an outsider, who is looking in through the lens of press releases, tweets, and videos that are taken very much out of context of what is actually happening at Twitter headquarters. Finally, you can tell the story from the point of view of Elon Musk himself, or from the point of view of a character like Elon Musk who is attempting to do something very similar. The Musk takeover is fascinating and rich with potential for stories from Elon's point of view. Not only is there the push-pull of the making an offer to buy and then starting to back out and then coming back in and all of the legal wrangling there, you could present this as all gambits on Elon's part, or you could present these as all hurdles that he was dreading and hoping to avoid. There's a lot of different viewpoints you could take just for that part of the merger. Likewise, for his coming in and taking over. Do you want to show some of the things he's done as tests, giving Elon a sense of what he did and did not need to do, who he could and could not keep at the company? Or do you want to emphasize Elon's nature as an erratic genius and portray these things as flashes of insight or random ideas that he just starts to execute on before discarding? You're probably not going to get a one-on-one interview with Elon Musk to play out these ideas, and so if you were to tell a story from this point of view, you would either have to guess or, again, fictionalize the character and give him a new name. But either way, there's a lot of potential for conflict there to explore. There's also a lot of conflict to explore between Elon and the outside situation. Elon versus the media. And not just the media, who are blatantly hostile to his takeover. Although there is that aspect of it, and that is a fun conflict to explore in a story. There is also the fact that there are a lot of people who were looking at Elon Musk to come in and take over the company and make it something better, then were very disappointed when he did not plunge in with both feet and immediately start making changes on day one, or even week one. So you can explore the aspect of Elon trying to take over and crush dissent at a company he has just taken over, transform it into something he can use to actually work out his goals for the company. At the same time, you can present Elon as taking a lot of fire from erstwhile allies, people who were originally optimistic, who think he's moving too slow. Maybe this is a fascinating character study in a flawed individual who has bitten off more than he can chew. Or perhaps you are presenting an erratic genius whose plans are 1,000 dimensions ahead of what anyone else can manage, and who is executing a takeover that is brilliant but misunderstood by everyone around him, even the people that theoretically like what he's trying to do. So there you have it, an analysis of all the conflicts in the Twitter takeover and how you could use them to tell a story of your own, whether it's based in the historical takeover of Twitter or in a fictionalized account of a tech company undergoing a hostile takeover. I think it's a really useful exercise, not necessarily because you're going to tell any of the stories you come up with, but because it helps you be more flexible and look at the situation, again, from all points of view and consider the motivations of every character, the conflicts that they are going to be trying to overcome through the course of a story, and how those may reflect on the characters that are in conflict with each other. By going through these exercises for existing scenarios, you reduce the risk that you will overlook a point of view in a situation, and you will become more used to looking at it from all different angles. At least if you can get coverage of an ongoing story that will give you all the different angles. That is always a bit of a hurdle that you have to deal with. But there you go, versus mode, what I use it for, and how I go about applying it to a specific case study. Hopefully that's a technique that will help you as you write your own stories. Let me know what you think of versus mode down in the comments below, and point out any points of view you think I may have missed in discussing the Twitter story. There's a like button and a subscribe button down there. You can use those as you see fit, and I'll talk to you later.